So, with House of Dragons only having 2 episodes left here, I decided let's actually talk about the scale of the verse as the whole. Basically, just the dragons in general, and we're going to be putting up against a Godzilla where I think it's actually pretty fair. Godzilla 1998 versus Balerion in his prime. Let's begin. So, if you guys hear like a change in my voice here, I am a little sick, so please bear with me here. So, Godzilla 1988. Let's begin the scaling here, and he's actually going to be a bit short here, considering I've talked about him, I think, the longest on my channel, and he is one of my favorites, to be honest here. I actually enjoy him more than Minus One, Shin, and even to a degree some of the Monsterverse movies. There's something about just a level of simplicity with this movie that just does it for me. So, Godzilla 1998. The hacks are pretty simple. He has burrowing capabilities, albeit these are more in. I wouldn't say they're incredibly fast here. It's not like he's his son where he can burrow at light speed and stuff there, dodging faster than light attacks and stuff like his son here. He's actually pretty slow with burrowing, so this wouldn't be a significant advantage against him. However, he does use it tactically to get away. So if he has a good enough distance, he can tunnel in pretty quick here. And, well, just actually do it to outmaneuver helicopters. So he at least is around the 80 knots margin when it comes to his speed. So scaling that to his burrowing speed, he would have the same thing. He also has his power breath, which actually is a highly pressurized air that actually causes things to combust and causes them to, well, expel fire. So basically a combustion breath, if you will. But again, power breath actually does work for me here. So with that being said here, let's move on to his physical strength. He actually has some casual feats where he just drags in fishing boats like they're nothing. He even dragged in, I think, around 3. Even taking out fishing, which we call the like carrier ships, these big behind carrier ships here, and he's able to like dig his claws into them and even drag them to land to where he feeds on them, which again says a lot here. However, he has a feat where he smashes through the MetLife building and creates this significant amount of damage. I gotta wonder how many people actually like died during that here. That has to be insane here. And this actually gets around to town level. However, I could actually make the argument that Godzilla 1998 may have actually been city level before the events of him being in New York. The reason why is because he actually isn't fully armored here, believe it or not here. The last bits of his armor were actually taken off by the not the nuclear cells, by the submarine here. And we know that in this movie, there were a lot of nuclear testings in the Russian area, meaning that they were either using these nukes to basically try and kill him, and this just broke off his armor over and over again until he just had enough and just left, basically getting annoyed and just going to a whole new playground here. As for his speed, he's easily hypersonic, or at least maybe supersonic, but again, I think hypersonic is a bit fair. He's able to dodge torpedoes, able to dodge missiles coming at him, and he's actually able to, believe it or not, if he was actually like, whatchamacallit, unrestrained by that bridge, he actually would have been able to tag those jets, believe it or not. So he might be hypersonic, at least Mach 4, considering. And then we have the sheer fact that, well, Godzilla 1998 is still armored. He still has those little bit of scales that were busted off by the by the torpedoes. So it took 2 town level attacks to actually be able to harm him. To which we will still be using that version where he has both of his scales, because, or at least his armored scales here, sorry, where he's at least at full strength. So in conclusion, large town level, possibly city level, hypersonic with burrowing and his power breath. But now let's talk about his opponent, Balerion the Black Dread. Now, this is a prime Balerion, meaning that he's not, exhausted from his older age here. He's not stressing himself out. His body's not slowly crushing itself. Because when Balerion actually reached his full size, it became harder for him to breathe, harder for him to, I guess you could say, maintain that size. That is because he was stuck in the dragon pit. It's very possible he could live longer than that, considering the cannibal, who is a wild dragon, by the way, is able to basically be at the same size as Balerion, but is able to still function normally. So it's very possible that Balerion being stuck in the dragon pit and stuff here actually affected him greatly. So with that being said here, Balerion will be at his peak, at his full size here, but he'll be at his prime. Basically as youthful as he was during the times of Aegon and Maegor. So without further ado, let's actually begin here. And believe it or not, House of the Dragon, or the Game of Thrones verse in general, actually has some pretty decent scaling if you read the books, the lore, and stuff like that there. Believe it or not, Balerion being one of the strongest creatures in the verse actually wouldn't be too far-fetched here, considering he was the strongest dragon out there. And during that time period, there were a lot of creatures that could not harm him at all, with only a few actually rivaling him, being the fact that it was the cannibal. There were actually fireworms, but they actually had to surprise him. And even then, it's actually still estimated that he was able to kill him. And then there were sea dragons, which we'll get into a bit here. Now, the smaller dragons, or at least the same size as Drogon, so dragons like Caraxes, Sea Smoke, Cyrax, I think Silver Wing as well. So these guys would actually scale to multi-city block. This is important because they will scale right back to Drogon, who's able to not only burn the Iron Fleet, but is able to burn down a good portion of King's Landing. And keep in mind, Vhagar and Meraxes scale above that, and Balerion scales above them by a significant amount here. This is important here because Balerion was known to burn down entire kingdoms by himself and reduce them to ash, meaning that Balerion would actually be around city level. Considering the average size of a kingdom, like the Roman Empire or, the Byzantine Empire, stuff like that there, they were like entire cities. You might be able to say countries and stuff there, but again, he's not destroying an entire country. That's pretty far-fetched for the Game of Thrones verse as a whole. However, Balerion actually has some deeper scaling. You see, there are there are creatures known as sea dragons, right? And these guys were no joke, with some of the bigger sea dragons actually rivaling the biggest of dragons, meaning that there were dragons or sea dragons that rivaled things like Vhagar, Meraxes, and possibly Balerion. I'm saying possibly because it never gave a description on the biggest dragons, but we do know the biggest dragons at that time were the Cannibal, Meraxes, Vhagar, and Balerion. So they would probably rival them in general. But again, Balerion was noted to be kind of a monster when it came to size. Now, when it comes to the sea dragons, they were known for plenty of things. For starters, they ate krakens and leviathans, which were known to destroy entire fleets. Entire fleets being able to conquer entire kingdoms, so you can easily say they're around the city level, considering the firepower and the militaristic force that they had at that time. And then there's also the fact that the bigger sea dragons, the ones that actually rivaled the dragons here, or the flying dragons, excuse me, were known to sink entire islands when creating tidal waves. So keep in mind, tidal waves are known to basically flood entire cities, like quite casually. And yet they have so much destructive force that these sea dragons are able to lay waste to entire islands, if not sink them. Now, this is pretty interesting, and it could be far-fetched here, but it is ridiculously impressive here. And keep in mind the whole thing with scaling to the sea dragons, and if not dragons scaling to dragons, isn't far-fetched here. Keep in mind, smaller dragons like Oryx are actually still capable of harming much larger dragons like Vhagar, while fire is not the way to go when it comes to a dragon-on-dragon combat situation. And this is important as well, considering the fact that Balerion would one-shot smaller dragons on a large occasion. Like, if they weren't close to his size at all, they couldn't do anything to him. They couldn't pierce him. They couldn't harm him. They wouldn't even get him to flinch. But a small dragon like Rx being able to flinch Vhagar, who is a veteran and is still growing, kinda. She's reaching the size of Balerion, but again, she's still relatively smaller than he is, apparently. And this is actually important because dragons like, again, Melees, Aurax actually prove that dragons do scale to each other, like, regardless here. And the fact that Balerion was known to one-shot these kind of dragons actually says a lot here. And keep in mind that Melees being able to fight Vagar in a fire-on-fire situation is actually impressive, considering the sheer fact that fire-on-fire is not the way to kill a dragon. You see, in the books, it's actually described by Daemon Targaryen that you have to take these dragons out as quickly as possible, even calling them nukes, which is actually pretty interesting because the closest thing they have to a nuke is wildfire. And we know that this is pretty much true here because dragons, in order to really kill each other, they have to bite, they have to claw, they have to scratch. And this was shown again when it came to Aurochs and Melee's death. How did Vagar kill them? Didn't use her fire breath. She used her jaws, okay? She just ripped and bit them in half. Now you might say, wait. Do you think Arys could survive Vagar's fire? Yeah, because dragons are actually immune to fire. It takes a lot for a dragon to harm another dragon when it comes to fire. And again, Balerion was just built different at that time. So with that being said here, for a standard scale, I could easily get Balerion to city level quite casually. For a lore scale, he would easily be island level as he scales to the largest of the sea dragons here. For speed, hypersonic quite casually, as I'll get into that a bit later. And then they also have fire breath and fire immunity. So with that being said here, who actually wins this matchup? Prime Balerion versus Godzilla 1998. Now, when it comes down to these two, I don't think anyone's gonna like disagree with me with saying that a Balerion in his prime would definitely be faster than Godzilla 1998. And believe it or not, I think he has a much higher battle IQ than Godzilla 1998 here. But I definitely think 1998 definitely is smarter than Balerion when it comes to a more intelligence factor. However, when it comes to the dragon speed here, I definitely would say he is faster because, again, scaling off of smaller dragons like Drogon, Aurex, and others, they actually have hypersonic speeds. Being able to literally cross from one end of an island or at least a country to another in a span of a couple minutes. Like, not even 10 minutes at that. It's probably like 5 or 4. And what's actually pretty impressive here is that this means Balerion could potentially speed blitz and use his fire breath to harm Godzilla 1998. But you might say, oh, well, Godzilla 1998 was able to tank the torpedoes. Yeah, but Balerion's fire is based off of more magical means than natural. So he should be able to harm Godzilla 1998, even though I do believe Godzilla 1998 is more durable. It's just that his fire breath, Balerion's fire breath, or dragon fire breath in general, is more so based off of magic rather than being grounded in science. But who do I think wins this more often than not here? I do think while it is a very close matchup, if we do not use the island scaling, then Godzilla 1998, due to him probably having a much more, I guess, better arguments for strength and durability, should be able to take Balerion. However, if we do use the island scaling and definitely go with the more city level feats for Balerion, then he would actually stump out Godzilla 1998. However, 1998 should be able to take on Balerion and definitely put up a good fight. So it's not an easy one for both of them, but each side definitely takes it high difficulty. I do think 1998 would probably win due to his higher intelligence. However, Balerion's no slouch when it comes to his intelligence either. However, if we use, again, the Sea Dragon scaling, because I know a lot of people aren't going to believe the lore because of how the verse operates, but if we use, the Sea Dragon scaling, then Balerion one shots Godzilla 1998 like it's nothing. So you have your ways to pretty much scale both of them. However, I am going to go with Godzilla 1998 based on the lower ends. Even though I do think Balerion is slightly higher, he doesn't compete when it comes to strength and durability, when it comes to the city versus large town level scaling. Albeit, again, like I said earlier, I could argue Godzilla 1998 being city level as well. But that's going to be all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like, and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.